Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us today. I am Dr. Kenya Odor, and I'm so excited to be here this evening to speak with three fabulous women. And today we're going to be talking about the value of mentors, why, and what for. So we're going to hear their lessons, their examples, and their stories of what mentorship looks like to each of them, what it's taken to secure mentors, and their experiences in that relationship. So, just as a background for this session, we're going to hear some details also about receiving feedback and critique from your mentor. So, we're going to dig into that as well. But what we want the audience to do, especially those of you online, if you have questions or comments that align to the conversation that we can either answer during the conversation or that sort of thing, please do not hesitate to chime in. Okay, so just as an introduction to myself, first off, I'm founder and CEO of Lean Geeks. We are a small firm, minority and woman owned firm, and we focus on working with organizations to help them remove assumptions about their users or their market. So we help them to understand better how to create products and services that matter to the people that buy and use them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand the mic over to each of our panelists today, and I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Good evening. My name is Diane Taylor, and I am the co-owner of Taylor Made Publishing, which is a child illustrative children's book publishing company. So we assist authors in fulfilling their dreams of Black children's books. Also, I would consider myself a community advocate, do a lot in the community, and serve on a lot of boards. That's who I am. Mom. Can't forget that I'm a mom because I usually have at least one or two of my kids with me. So that's definitely important to me as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Glorstein Brown. I am currently the mayor of Bethel, and I also serve as the vice chair, I think still for right now, at Pitt Community College. I too am a mom, and I am a grandma, and happy to be.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Amy Thompson. I am the CEO of Creative Allies. We are based in Raleigh. We're a digital marketing firm, and we focus on providing marketing services to other small business owners. So we work on websites, social media, anything marketing that you can think of. We do and help both nonprofit and for-profit companies.
Awesome. So my first question is to each of you. Why is this topic of mentorship important to you? And how do you define the role of a mentor? So, do any of you want to go first? That's the easiest thing since we're sharing the mic.
I should have looked at the order of chairs before I selected where I was going to sit, and I did not do that. So I will say that I think when I think about mentorship, I think there's lots of other words that we use for or key phrases. So, for example, when I think of it, I think about sisterhood, I think about networking, I think about all of the mentors that I have in the mentees, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be a formalized relationship, but that it does have to be a relationship that's reciprocal. So I think when people think about mentorship, they sometimes think of it as a one-way street, whereas to me, it's a two-way street, and it's important and imperative for each one of us to have one.
Okay, when I think of mentor, because of my growing up, I really didn't have a lot of people to look up to other than my mom and my dad. And I was not exposed to a lot. So as life went on and I started getting involved with different activities, meetings, and different things, I start watching and start noticing different people how they carry themselves. And I always think that a person that is a mentor needs to have a heart because you need to love what you're doing. And that way, that's how you're able to teach others and how to get them involved and get them going. And I will say, I will use Diane. I'm sorry about Diane. She's not going to pay me for this, but I think Diane. I look at her as an awesome mentor, and I have learned a lot from her, and still is. So that is how I look at it.
And I'll just add, I mean, obviously those are great definitions, but I'll just add to it. I think mentorship, similar to what Diane said, is about kind of pulling pulling from one way and then giving back the other way, right? So it's taking what you can learn from other people, but then it's sharing that knowledge with someone else. And I think that mentors don't have to be formal, like she said, and they don't always have to be people that you know at all, right? You could find someone that's you see on YouTube or you follow on LinkedIn or somebody that's in your church, and you could see what they do and mimic that or learn from it. So it's really a very broad thing, mentorship. And so when people maybe complain about, oh, I can't find any mentors, I mean, you got to do a little bit of work and be a little proactive to identify what you're looking for and then look for that.
That's a really great point around being proactive. It's important that we don't expect that people just fall at our feet to come and be our mentors, but that we seek them out. It's a really important point. So, Diane, we're going to shift gears, and I want you to tell me about what you see as the most important aspect of the mentor-mentee relationship.
I might use this word because all of my degrees are in communications, but to me, the most important thing is communications. It's so important in any relationship, but especially with a mentor-mentee relationship, because mentors and mentees all have life happen. And what that means is that even though you might have a certain time or day or month that you're scheduled to meet and to discuss things, sometimes things happen. And I think that for all of the mentor slash mentee relationships I've had, the success has been in having open and honest dialogue about what their needs are, what your needs are, and also being able to communicate when things may not be going well as when things are going well.
I agree with what Diane. Communication is the biggest thing, but trust, transparency, honesty. I have reached out to a lot of people that I thought were mentors, and I found that they were not what they were not credible at all. And I'm looking for someone that is, if you say you're going to be there, I expect you to be there, and just do not do. But if you can talk the talk, walk the walk. So communication, trust, accountability is what I look for.
And just to add to that, I would say a couple of other things. Kind of knowing yourself, I think is important, and knowing what you want, because every person, they could be great at something, but might not be great for you. And so you have to find that right fit of somebody that's going to guide you to where you're looking to go. So I think that's important. And then also just not being afraid to cut loose when you need to cut loose. If it's not working, if they're not helping you or you're not helping them, then don't be afraid. Like, don't feel like you have to hold on to that. I think those would be some important things to add.
I'm so excited that we've had other people enter the room since we started. And those of you on the computer can hear each time someone new comes into the room. So my next question is, Gloria Steen, I want you to tell us a little bit. So you shared how Diane is a special mentor in your life. Can you share a little bit about what triggered that decision to seek out mentors like Diane or otherwise? What is it that triggered you wanting to actually seek out that mentorship relationship?
If I could just share a little bit, because I said with my growing up, I was not exposed to what a lot of others were exposed to. I didn't. My mom was not educated, so therefore, a lot of things that other parents or other people could teach their children, my mom was not able to do that with me. So a lot of things I learned, I was late going back to school. I just felt like I wasn't the person to. I was afraid to ask, and it's just like. And I would tell anybody, do not be afraid to walk up to someone if you see that they are doing something that you really interested in or involved in, and do not judge a book by its cover. And so, and I will use Diane again as an example, if she don't mind. That before I got to know Diane, I felt like I was not at the level to where I could approach her to go and talk to her and ask questions. But as I began to learn Diane and found out that Diane was just a humble person, she was open minded, she was willing to help. I heard her talking to other people, and I went, okay, this lady, I'm watching this woman. This lady is going, she's done things in her life. She is someone that you can follow. and because I've gotten where I am now because of asking questions. I was afraid to become a town commissioner. I did not think that I was qualified, but I learned that, it wasn't about that. Now I'm mayor, and I still feel like sometimes, Lord, what in the world? But I just shared to let you know that do not be afraid to approach anyone. And if you see someone that has that little nick that you're looking for to say, oh, wow, this is what I want to do not afraid to approach them and ask them questions to see where, because they could be vehicle that will take you where you need to go. And that is why, and I think a mentor, like I said, she said, you don't want everybody's not a fit, but you will know when that right person is that person, and that mentor will stick with you to the very end. And I hope. Oh,
Can I add absolutely? No, I think that was great, first of all. But one thing you said was that fear, and that is just a common thing. Most people think they see someone else and they think they're just not at that same level, like you said. But the reality is, I don't know that any of us will be able to find one person who got to where they are by themselves. Everybody has had help. Therefore, most people who are good people want to give that help back. And you've got to remember that, because no matter how successful somebody seems or is, they're usually pretty open to sharing something with you. But that fear stops a lot of people from just reaching out. And in my experience, I've always found, surprisingly, that people are just so willing to help. And so, yeah, just overcoming that, which I'm glad you did, but overcoming that is the first step.
Thank you for that. I think you all made some really good points around what it takes to seek out a mentor in terms of getting over that fear, seeing someone that emulates those characteristics that you're trying to achieve, and how important it is to just say, you know what, these folks got here somehow, and they want to give back and help me as well. It's also important, I think, with the makeup of those of us in the room. It's also important for us to tell folks who are younger or who are making some sort of life transition when it's time for them to seek out that mentor, because you see they're at that turning point where they need someone. And it may not be one of us that knows this person, but maybe we know they need that, and that it's time for them to go and seek someone out. And it doesn't hurt to give people that nudge sometimes. Okay, so one thing that I want all of you to answer, which I think you did to some extent, but if you can give me a few examples outside of what you've talked about already, what are some things that you did to actually find that mentor? What are some tangible actions that you took to find a mentor?
Well, I can tell you that I believe in divine timing and placement. So for me, it's always been um, a networking event or an educational event that's tied to something of my interest. For example, when I first started publishing, and I continue to do that. So nobody tells you have to take continuing ed credits when you own your own business, but you should. Right? You should continue to try and be better and learn more. So, the mentors that I have in reference to my business, I actually met at annual retreats or publishing conferences, things of that nature, where one of them, like you said, I just went up to her afterwards and I was like, I'm trying to be like you, you know, and she lives in Philadelphia, and we've stayed in contact through that way, and social media helps in that way. But I did want to add that no one person can be the mentor that you need. We are so multifaceted as people that it depends on our season, where we are, our professional life, what we're looking to do at that time. So I have a professional mentor, I have a mother mentor, I have, a Christian mentor. So it's important to understand that no one person can do those things, and that everything is a season. And so what I mean by that is, you do move on, and it's not burning a bridge, hopefully, and it's not anything of that nature. But we evolve. We're people, and as we evolve, our mentors should evolve. And so, as it just depends on the chapter of your life, and you should be open about what your needs are in that particular season, and then be willing to move as you evolve as a person.
and I'm not going to repeat all of what you, because it's pretty much the same, but I will say that I too, going to conferences and meetings and different things, watched, observed. I always observed and found that one particular person that I can connect with, and you will know that right person. And that person will stick with you. They will call you. I want them to give me the good and the bad. I mean, and sometimes they will make you cry. I'm guilty, and but it's to help me grow in what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do. So when I find that person, that one person, I stick with them, and like you said, until it's time to let go, and you will know when it's time to let go. But I'm very strong on my Christian back belief that God always has that ram in the bush waiting for you.
The thing that I'll add is your network. So your existing network, and I'll give an example. When I first started running my company, it was 2018, and that was the first time I'd ever run a business. I did not actually know personally any other female CEOs. And so I went to someone in my network and told them what I was looking for and that I felt like I wanted some guidance from a woman. Not that men aren't great and all that stuff, but I wanted somebody who could relate to what I was about to face. And then I just asked around. And then I was fortunate enough to have somebody make a really great recommendation and then introduce me to someone who was wonderful and gave me the advice that I needed to really just get off the ground running. And so for me, it was, and your network doesn't have to be huge, it just has to be good. And you can, have people in your network that you can reach out to that you can trust that will introduce you to other people that maybe can help you.
I do want to add one other piece that I think sometimes we don't talk about, and that is you don't have to necessarily have a mentor that you approach. Sometimes it's the person that gave you constructive feedback unsolicited. For example, if I see somebody and I know they have potential and they may have misspoken or they may say something that I don't think is in their best interest, I'm gonna tell them. Now, it's in love, and they can either accept it in love or not. But I'm that one that'll be like, sis, I'm gonna need you to take that off Facebook. I mean, I'm just that person.
Right.
And even if I don't know you, I'm going to do that. And you can either take it positively or you can say, this is a person that's trying to help me because people help me. And so sometimes the mentor relationship starts the other way. And it all depends on how we may accept constructive feedback. So sometimes it's looking at who's reached out to me, who has tried to help me, and those become natural relationships or mentors as well.
Thank you for that. I think that's an important point around the fact that sometimes the people that give us that feedback, it's out of love, and we initially can get offended or think that what's being said didn't need to be said, but we have to think about the fact that someone had enough thought and respect for us to actually say something that was awkward, uncomfortable, or could be sensitive to us. I can think back to, and hearing what you all are saying, I can think back to mentor relationships that I've had where I recognized that someone wasn't the right mentor, and that was that season, and the advice that they were giving me or the approach that they took and how they delivered that information to others was not the way I would, and I knew at that point it was time to step back and look for others from a mentoring standpoint. So this question is for Gloristine and Diane. When you think about those mentor relationships, what do you do? What are some strategies that you can employ to ensure that you get the most out of that relationship?
I think Miss Glorstein brought it up earlier, and one of the things is to be honest and open and transparent. And what I mean by that is, um, usually we look for what we consider to be successful people as our mentors. Well, successful people are busy people. Right. And so if somebody does ask for my time, I'll need them to show up. And vice versa. So I think that one of the things that can go left really quickly, in particular, I know with me and my circle, because we're all busy and we're all juggling a lot of things. And sometimes it's not that we're not willing to give, but I'm gonna need you to do some work, first of all, and I need to see that you're doing some work because I'm not that's your dream I'm trying to help you with. It's not, God didn't give me that dream, you know. And so, I mean, y'all know this because this is what happens. So people will say, oh, I need you to mentor me. Okay, cool. Okay, well, I need a business plan and I need this and okay, cool. Pitt Community College has a course. I swear to you now, I've done this so many times. Pitt Community College has a small business center. They have great resources. And then I'll call them back 2 weeks later. Girl, did you register for the class? Oh, I ain't get to that yet. Well, then we're done. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't be the one doing the work for your dream. And so I think that sometimes we get it twisted in the fact that just because somebody is willing to help us does not mean that it is their job to do your job. So whatever it is that you are trying to do, you can accept help, but don't expect for other people to do your stuff. Drives me crazy.
Can I add to that? I think along those lines, along those lines, I think that's a really good point. And that also means that you don't expect someone as a mentor to give you all the answers. Being a mentor doesn't mean that I ask the question and you give me the right answer, because you as an individual have a different way of thinking and have to expect that this person's giving you the tools, but that you've got to take those tools and then do something with them. So I'm going to hand it over to Glorstein.
I don't know what to say because she answered it all. Other, other than just to say, as in my arena as mayor and in the political arena, I do have people that will, like she said, will come and ask for help, and or they will say that God laid you on my heart to call you. But then when, but then when you ask me things, I give you what I know or what I understand to know, and the resources that that's available. And then when things don't work out, you get upset and you'll say, well, I shouldn't have never come to you to first start with. Well, you did. And what I told you, it may not work or it may work, but I'm like Diane. I know I mean, people come to meetings and they want this address. They'll say, well, Mayor, will you bring up this, this, and this? And I said, well, are you going to be there? And so, and then the next day they did not show up. So they'll call me the next day. So, well, were you were not there? That's not, I got your back, but you can at least show up. So I understand what she means by when people, asking you to do things or want help with things. I don't mind. I would go out of my way to do things. And I am respectful of people's time. I'm always respectful of people's time, but I will do everything I can to help people. And the same that I'm what you're looking for, I'm looking for. So I mean that Diane just put the nail in the coffin. So oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you for that, ladies. Um, so when we think about those mentors and the relationships we've had over the years, there's always that memorable mentor and something that they said to us, positive or negative, but that it sticks with us for a lifetime. And this question's for each of you. What is that memorable piece of advice that a mentor gave you at some point in your life?
This one is kind of easy to me because I can hear him saying it over and over again. His name is Wade Hudson, and Wade and his wife have owned a Black children's publishing company for longer than I've been alive, and they do it well. They're very successful. Their books are with Scholastic, and I met Wade probably about 5 years ago at a conference, and I pulled him to the side and I asked him about diversifying my publishing company because I'm very clear that I can publish anything, but Black children's books are where my heart is. And he said, why would you want to think about diversifying? If that's what you do and that's what you do well, then you need to continue to do what you do well. And so he said, don't let anything or anybody take you from what you do well. So at the time, Scholastic was trying to purchase some of our books, which, on the outside sounds great, right? But I took what he said seriously in terms of I would lose a lot of creative control by selling my books to Scholastic, although it might monetarily seem cool up front. So I decided against that. And it's a decision that I'm really glad that I did. But I heard what he said. I digested it. I prayed about it. And it really helped me to stay focused. in a time where I could have easily gotten lost overwhelmingly in the publishing industry.
Be yourself. Stay true to who you are. You have a brain, use it. Do not allow anyone to bully you, push you around. Uh, don't easily be swayed, no matter what. And my mom used to just always tell me, honey, it's hard out there. Do the best you can do. Be the best person you can be. And I know nothing else to do but that.
I have two that stand out from early in my career. The first was I worked at a pharmaceutical company and had no experience in that area. And I questioned my boss at the time, like, why did you hire me? Like, I'm just curious. And she told me that my attitude was what made a difference over other candidates. She said, you can learn anything if you're smart and you put your mind to it. She said, but having a positive attitude is something that you can't teach people. And that has stuck with me for a really long time. And the second thing, a little bit later in my career, but my first management job, my boss said to me, when you find yourself spending more time doing the other person's job than they're doing, you need to fire them. And that was some of the best advice I got. It was like, stop wasting your time. Because a lot of times we feel like firing someone is something we don't want to do, but you have to protect your own time, protect your department, your business, or whatever. And when you find that you're over them, you're watching them, you're checking, they're correcting stuff, all of that, it's time for them to go. And so those two things, I mean, this is way over 10 years ago, but both of them always have stuck with me.
There's one more thing, and my my grandma used to say this, and that was, you can say anything to anybody. It's how you say it. And so a lot of times I'm approached because I can't believe you told the president this. I have, um, but you can tell anybody anything. It's how you say it. And so I think if we keep that in mind, then that it helps us with not burying very important details and or information or feelings that we have that we should share. So you can say anything to anybody. It just depends on how you say it.
So, what I'm hearing is a lot of that memorable advice is around staying true to yourself, doing things that are rooted out of love, and kindness, love for yourself and for others, um, and to assess and evaluate relationships for those things that are difficult but that have to be done, like letting someone go if you're spending the wrong amount of time on course correcting their work. So that's great. Um, Now let's shift gears. Tell me how this advice or other advice that you were given by mentors, how has it shaped how you show up as a leader?
Whew, oh boy. I know that I have changed a lot. Um, my attitude, the way I see things, um, the way I observe things, I'm a lot better at that. And my heart, I think, has gotten much more kinder than it used to be. I have a heart for people. I believe in doing what's right with anyone, and it's not about being in the light or anything of that nature, but it's about doing what's right and trying to make. And that's what I'm trying to do here within my community, because I know there's a lot that has to be done, and I want, when I'm thinking about the little ones, and I'm thinking about, when they're watching. And so with my attitude and how I carry myself, and just because that person approached me one way, you have to think they're looking. Are you going to come back the way they came back at you? You can't do that. And that do not mean that you're weak or weak-minded person. It's just that I think it shows that I have developed and matured a lot more than I, you know, probably would have had back in the day. So, but I think what I've learned and still learning, I'm still learning. And there are things, and I want people to approach me and tell me when I'm doing something wrong or when I'm saying something, and I'm not offended by that. That makes me a stronger person. So I think everything that I have picked up, everything I have learned, I think I'm making it my best practices. And I catch myself every now and again, have to go back and reevaluate myself to see, am I really doing anything wrong? Because I do want to be that person that child say, as my granddaughter would tell me, Grandma, I want to be a doctor, but I think I want to be a mayor for a little while, not long, but just a little while, because sometimes people can be mean. So.
I would say having a positive attitude has stayed with me for this whole time since I heard that, and I think that manifests in a lot of different ways. I think problem solving is one of the ways, especially in running a business, where you're always looking at how you can make things work instead of looking at it from a negative standpoint. Oh, this is not going to work. Oh, I can't do that. And so it's always trying to creatively solve problems and find solutions for us, for our clients, etc. And so that positivity piece has really stuck with me, and I think helped me being a leader.
Well, it's a continuous process, right? You never kind of stop learning or changing or hopefully being better. I can say that one of the biggest differences that I've noticed is that I'm more patient, not just with other people, but with myself. A lot of times I think people don't understand the inner work that has to happen for people to see you on the outside. And so the inside work is relinquishing my perfectionism crown, right? And understanding that it's okay to make mistakes. And it's also okay to apologize for those mistakes and to move on. And I think that when you're in the hustle and the grind and you're just trying to make it, sometimes an attitude of perfectionism can actually hold us back because we are trying to make things so perfect that we don't move at all. So for me, I would say the biggest thing that I continue to work on is not being a perfectionist and being okay with that, being open, honest, and transparent, not just with other people, but with myself. And those are the things that I think are projected when you walk into any room, that people can see that you're comfortable in your own skin, and that if I know it, I'm gonna tell it. If I don't know it, I'm gonna tell it. And and I think that people can see that. So do the inner work, and then it will be projected outside.
Good, good. So I don't have a clock. Do we have a time check? 10 more minutes. Okay. I want to wrap this up in terms of the key takeaways. And if there are comments or questions from our live audience or on the computer, for those that are watching us live online, we want to also address those questions and comments. But in hearing a lot of what's been said today, it's the mentor-mentee relationship. So if you're in the role of a mentor, it sounds like there's not only an opportunity to improve someone else's situation, but it's also helping you to do the work, to show up, and to know that your actions and behaviors that others see, that can sometimes be a mentor relationship, whether or not you know it. So we have to show up in terms of being our best self, especially when we're leaders in our communities. Another important takeaway from this conversation is the importance of your spiritual connection and relationship that you have with your God, and knowing that that has a lot to do with how you connect with other people, your ability to say, I'm not perfect, and to forgive yourself in those relationships and dynamics you have with other people. But to know that in that mentor relationship, you have an opportunity to really influence someone's life and for them to understand that it's bigger than them and the situation that they're in. So I think that that's really important. Also, showing up as yourself. And hopefully you are your best self and a kind person who shows love in showing up as yourself. In that, I hear a little in the room. But we've got to understand that people seek us out as mentors, And we seek others out as mentors because they demonstrate some sort of characteristic or level of leadership that we want to be as well. Okay, so we can't forget that. So I'm going to open it up to comments and questions, and I'll hand the mic out to those that are in the room or get any comments or questions online. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that things were so captivating for those online that there are no comments or questions. Anyone in the room, comment, question, reflection on a relationship you've had? Okay.
When she was talking about, when Diane was talking about attitude, I thought about in the classroom, I always tell kids, I don't like your attitude. And they go, attitude. I said, you know what attitude is? You know what a turd is? You stink. They love it. EOGs were going on last week at school. I'm walking across the classroom. And I said, are there any questions? And they go, yeah, who did your toes? I said, what that got to do with EOG? They look like Skittles. I said, let's get back. I said, from then on, I wore closed-toe shoes the rest of the day. But is anybody in the room named Kia? Kia stands for know it all. You know those Kias. You know who they are. You couldn't tell them anything. You couldn't tell them how to get the head out of the bag if they had to. So I had an opportunity. I was at an outdoor event and been an event planner and whatnot. I saw this lady was struggling with the tablecloths. Every time she put them on the table, it would come up. I said, you need some help. No, I got it. So finally, she had to go away. So I slipped and put some water on the table and put the tablecloth up there. She said, that one stayed. I said, I put a little water there. Hope you didn't mind. Well, where'd you get it from? I said, that pond right there. So sometimes just doing a simple thing can make all the difference. And I remember I was shy, believe it or not. I was shy at one point in my life, and I wouldn't really talk. But when I did my first public speaking class at ECSU, Bike and Pride, anybody didn't know that. Anyway, I had a public speaking class, and I had been on tour with the band. So I didn't do my homework. And so I said, oh, they said, Shirley, I know you're going to do a good speech. I'm like, oh, is that the night for the 6-minute speech? I'm like, oh, no, what am I going to do? So I said, can I go first? And she let me go first. And I knew what I wanted to do was take notes on everything. And I said, before I give you my 6-minute talk on who, what, when, where, how long, what for, I just want to tell you how hard it was to do a speech. I said, but my time is up and I can't tell you. So from that, she nominated me for Who's Who because I had to get creative. I had to do something that was a grade I had to have because I missed too many classes because it was a night class. So she became my unofficial mentor. And from that day forward, I have been creative in the things that I do and say. Elizabeth City's motto was to live is to learn. Now we got to learn to live. After the pandemic, you got to learn how to live. Also, you always heard the saying, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. A waste is a terrible thing to mind. So with that said, I'll let somebody else.
Thank you so much for that.
It always makes a difference.
Yes.
In any situation, you can connect with somebody, whether it's, right or wrong, you can, reach, teach, and lead.
Yes, thank you so much. It took the educator in the room to school all of us. Thank you so much. It's close. It's close. It's Kenya. It's not. But I think the point to take away from that is it's okay to ask for help. And sometimes we have folks that are too proud to ask for help, and we have to just show them. It takes a little bit of that pushiness or assertiveness to show them that it takes a little bit more than what you think. I also think from what you said that it's important to understand that, going back to the point around perfectionism, we can't expect to be perfect, and sometimes humor can lighten up the mood, especially when you're uncomfortable and you make a mistake. Use your humor or your ability to laugh at yourself. And sometimes we have to learn that from mentors or other people. So thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? Young people in the room, comments, questions? I'm going to give you a chance to think about it.
We've got our women up there serving. So my question is something that I wrestle with, of course. most of us serve on boards, and we are either the only female or we may be two females. What piece of advice would you give a woman in a situation where, I say male dominate, especially on these boards and stuff?
That's a really good question. I have an answer for some of that too, but we're going to let our panelists speak to that.
And I'm going to be nice. I had to deal with that when I was elected in 1999 as the town commissioner. And I was on a board of all men, including the manager, everybody. And the first couple of months, trying to learn my way around, I was quiet. And it was almost like, well, you can be seen, but you're not to be heard. Okay. After that 2 month period, my 2 month period, I had to make some shift change in there because I did very heavy bomb. And but the thing of it is, you have to the respect have to come, because if you do not stand your ground, they will talk right over you. They will not allow you to say it. They will just not address you at all. So I had to stand my ground. And I wasn't ugly about it, but if you heard me, you probably say, okay, yeah, she was a little, but I just had to from the mayor on down, let them know I do not sleep with any of you at night. I do not go home with you at night. I am an elected official just like you are. I said, and when I speak, I expect to get the same respect that the rest of the four men and everybody else at this table get. You don't have to like me, but you're going to respect me. And sometimes you have to say that. And of course, it may not go over well with them, but they may not speak to you. Lord help me. It didn't bother me, so to speak. Of course, those are my colleagues. I had to deal with them. But it was to a point that at some point in time when I would say what I have to say, they didn't hear me. Okay, that's fine. Eventually, things will start changing. I did a lot of praying and to ask God to help me deal with these folk. But when he said he will make your enemy your footstool, he will. And they will start doing things, don't even realize why they're doing it. But at some point in time, you will get the respect that you need. They may not still like you, but they will give you the respect that you well deserve. And it took me a while. It took me a while. So I've been in this for 23 years. But but just keep standing your ground, keep speaking, do not bow down. If you have something you need to say, you need to gain their attention and say what need to be said and put it out there. You may not get support, but put it on the table and let them know where you're coming from. After a while, things will start happening. That's what I had to do.
And here's the part of the program that gets interesting. So for me, I study people. I study people. I study how they respond. I study how they walk. I study how different cultures approach each other. And what I mean by that is there's a difference in being in a room with Black men versus white men. On the boards that I sit on, it's majority Caucasian men. And there's a different approach to dealing with Caucasian men than there are with other men, period, point blank. I mean, there just is. So I read what they read, Art of War, books that they read. There's a lot that we don't know, that we have not been taught, that they have in communications that I practice on a daily basis. For example, when I walk into a room, my back is not to the door. That's not what we're going to do. They will meet me on my ground. Their back will be to the door. If they shake my hand will be on top. These are all cultural differences that we are not taught, that they instinctively do because they've been doing it their whole life. But they matter to them and they know what it means. For example, my first time ever in Piggly Wiggly was with Bill Clinton. This is a true story. I'll save it for my book. But just know, that in one ride, I was his chauffeur, I was his driver. Within one ride, he was taking me to Piggly Wiggly and buying my Pepsi. You understand what I'm saying? It's how we approach them. It's not necessarily what we say. It's in our mannerisms. It's in looking them in their eye. It's in maintaining our tone and our cool. It's in authentically saying what we want to get. I don't mince my words with people because I'm authentically who I am no matter who I'm speaking to, right? But the tone may change. And so those are the things that I wish we had a crash course. To be honest, I wish we had a crash course in how to deal with them, how they respect. I guess I I guess I could. Yeah, but real talk. But I mean, but seriously, like when you walk into the room, who do you look for, right? Because that's what they look at. I've had politicians that I don't know run up to me and say, "I just wanted to know who made this person run up to them and say hi." Right? So we wear our crowns, but we are so quick to take them off to please them. I keep mine on. You know what and so from that perspective, they don't have to like me. I don't even have to tell them that because they see it in my body language. They see it in how I respond to them. They see it in how I shake their hand or choose not to. I mean, seriously, and I've done that also. So we have to take control in a way that we're not comfortable with all the time because we haven't practiced it. It gets easier. I promise you it does. But it takes practice for us. We're behind the 8 ball in that, but we catch up quick. We catch up quick. So for me, it's in knowing and reading the room, knowing how they communicate with each other, knowing how they think and outthink them. That's what I do.
Thank you. Amy, did you want to add?
Do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, and me being first time in this arena,
Mhm.
I had never dealt with that before, but as time went on,
You pick up on it.
Absolutely. Amy, you wanted to add?
Thank you. I just wanted to add a couple of things. I think a course is a great idea, to be serious, because we're not taught that. We don't have a lot of practice with that. And I think the higher you get up in leadership, the more successful you get, the more likely you will run into that. Even if you're not in a male dominated field, if you are VP of whatever, director of whatever, you're likely to be the only woman in that space. And so the things that I just want to repeat for emphasis is be yourself. You have to. I love stand your ground. I mean, I know it can mean something else too, but I like the idea of it because it's so true. A lot of times, any one little thing could cause someone to lose their confidence and then behave differently. No, behave the way that you are. If you have something to say it. If you disagree with someone, say it, right? And who cares if they don't like you? As long as you're doing your job and you're doing your job well, that's what you get paid to do. You don't get paid for people to like you. You get paid to do your job. So do your job well and be comfortable in the fact that you were hired because you could do your job well. And it's easier said than done sometimes, but worrying about other people and their opinion of you is a waste of time. And you just have to become confident in who you are and what you're doing there, and just not caring about the other stuff. Just not caring.
I really wish we had more time to speak on this topic. Just a quick blurb. I spent almost 20 years in software application development in organizations, primarily men, primarily white men. I moved up into leadership roles in those sorts of organizations. And so a lot of what you all are saying is near and dear to my experiences in the corporate world. And I think the practice piece is key. The more practice I got, the more comfortable I got with people want to hear from you. They want to hear what perspective you have because you're there in the room for a reason. And that kind of thing is important. And I've also learned, and I'll leave it here, that in my lifetime, some of my best and most impactful mentors were white men. And I have learned that if I want to navigate the world that they're in, I've got to understand how to interact with them or the way in which they approach and handle different situations and circumstances, and who better to tell me. So that's something to think about when you're seeking out mentors. Don't always look for someone that looks just like you. Sometimes it's got to be someone very different than who you are. So we are at time. I'm so excited because I came all this distance to see all of your lovely faces, and this was such a great time. Please don't forget our next session is coming up on August 3rd at 3 p.m. And you can go to the registration page the same way that you did for the Showing Up Strong events. Number 1 and number 2, we have 3 and 5 up there for you to register for. And our next topic is going to be growing your career via a spirit of intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurs are those of us that step outside of our company or corporate walls, but intrapreneurs are those of us that are within a company and have ideas and ways to be innovative. Thank you again for joining us today, and have a great evening.